You know, we all think we have a pretty good handle on what equality means. But what if I told you that in the eyes of the law, sometimes achieving true equality means you have to treat people, well, unequally? It's a paradox, and it sits right at the very heart of India's constitution.
So let me just ask you this straight up. To build a genuinely fair society, should we just apply the exact same rules to absolutely everyone, no exceptions? Or, and this is where it gets interesting, do we sometimes need to create different rules for different people to get to a truly fair outcome? That's the big question we're diving into.
To figure that out, we've got to start with the foundation. I mean, before you can even talk about equality, there's this massive principle holding everything else up, and that's the rule of law.
Now, the rule of law is a simple but really powerful idea. It just means nobody, and I mean nobody, is above the law. Not the government, not the wealthiest CEO, not the most powerful politician. The law is the boss. Its main job is to stop people in power from just making up random, unfair rules. It's our ultimate shield. And in India, this isn't just some philosophical concept. It's literally written into the constitution. It is the lifeblood of Article 14, which is the fundamental right we're going to unpack right now.
So let's get into the specifics. You see, Article 14 isn't just one simple command. It's actually got two distinct parts that work together, creating this really robust vision of what equality should look like.
Okay, here is the exact wording. And I want you to notice those two key phrases: equality before the law and the equal protection of the laws. Now, they might sound kind of the same, but trust me, they come from totally different places and they do very different jobs. Think of them as two sides of the same coin. On one side, you have equality before the law. It's kind of like a shield. It's a negative idea, meaning it stops the government from doing something, like giving special favors. But on the other side, you've got equal protection of the laws. That's more like a sword. It's a positive concept that requires the government to do something. It recognizes that, hey, we don't all start at the same line. So sometimes the state has to step in to level the playing field. And that's where treating people differently is actually the key to fairness.
Right, but that brings us to a huge problem, doesn't it? If the law can treat people differently, how do we stop that from just turning into good old-fashioned discrimination? Where do the courts actually draw the line?
This is the million-dollar question. If you pass a law to help one specific group, how can you be sure it's actually fair and doesn't just hurt someone else? You're going to need a system. You need some kind of test.
And luckily, there is one. In huge cases like State of West Bengal v. Anwar Ali Sarkar, the Indian Supreme Court came up with a really clever tool for this exact problem. It's called the test of reasonable classification. It's a two-part check, and any law has to pass both. The first part has a fancy legal name, intelligible differentia, but all it's asking is there a logical, common-sense reason for separating people into these groups? It can't just be random. The second part is rational nexus. This just asks, okay, does this grouping actually help the law achieve what it's trying to do? There has to be a clear connection. All right, the best way to get this is to see it in action. So let's try it out. Let's say there's a law that gives visually impaired students an extra 30 minutes to finish an exam. The whole point of the law is to give everyone a fair shot. So does it pass our two-part test? Well, let's see. First, is there a logical reason to create a separate group for visually impaired students? Yes, of course. Second, does giving them extra time directly help achieve the goal of a fair opportunity? Absolutely. It's a perfect link. So this law passes with flying colors. That's a reasonable classification. Okay, now for a very different example. Imagine a new law that bans all women from driving, and the stated goal is to improve road safety. This one, it fails, and it fails spectacularly. First step, the classification is based on gender, which has zero logical connection to someone's driving skill. It's totally arbitrary. And because of that, there's no rational link, no nexus between the rule and the goal. The law is unconstitutional because it fails both parts of the test. And this gets to one of the most powerful lines ever written in Indian law from a case called E.P. Royappa. It says, "Equality and arbitrariness are sworn enemies." And that's really the whole point, isn't it? At its core, the fight for equality is a fight against random, baseless, arbitrary government action. So this isn't just some dusty old legal theory. Let's talk about how Article 14 is a living, breathing principle that's being used right now to expand rights and fight for dignity in modern India. One of the most powerful examples today is in the fight for transgender rights. Ever since the Supreme Court's landmark NALSA judgment back in 2014, high courts across the country have been using Article 14 to uphold the dignity and rights of transgender people in everything from marriage to public life. The Supreme Court really set the stage in that NALSA case. They made it crystal clear. Recognizing someone's gender identity is absolutely fundamental to their right to live a life with dignity. And that single idea opened the door for so much more. And you can see the real-world results right here. Courts have affirmed that a trans woman is legally a bride, protecting the right to marry. They've respected families by allowing a trans couple to be listed as parents. They fought for dignity inside prisons. And they've even ordered the state to create reservation policies for education. Every single one of these rulings is Article 14 in action today. So let's zoom out. After all that, why does a deep dive into Article 14 really matter for us? Let's bring it all home. Here's the most important thing to remember. Article 14 isn't a museum piece. It's not a static rule stuck in the past. It is a powerful, dynamic tool that lets our Constitution evolve with us, pushing society toward a more just, more inclusive future. So at the end of the day, true equality isn't about treating everyone identically. It's about ensuring everyone has a truly fair chance. It gives our courts a weapon to strike down arbitrary laws and to protect the dignity of every single person. It's what keeps our laws from getting left behind. And that leaves us with one final thought. This journey toward equality, well, it's never really over, is it? As our own understanding of who we are continues to change, what do you think the next frontier will be? What new challenges are coming that will force us, once again, to ask what it really means to be equal?